Thanks, Sid and Keith, for allowing me this opportunity to explain why Pro 356 Consulting is back, again, sponsoring and supporting the Overlap podcast. Number one, I just have found that this is a great podcast, that I share your values of the overlap concept, and I have found just so many great nuggets from listening to you guys. Number two is, I remember when you approached me at Hatch about starting a podcast, and I said, hey, that's why we built that podcasting studio at Coastal, and you guys took it up, and here we are. You've done 100 broadcasts, and now you're on the way to 200. And lastly, I just want to say that I just appreciate the way you guys do business, and I want to associate with you. So Pro 356 is glad to be back as a promoter and sponsor of the Overlap podcast.
Hey everybody, this is Sid Sexton and my good friend Keith Glines with another episode of the Overlap podcast. And for those just tuning in for the first time to the Overlap podcast, number one, where the hell you been? Number two, the Overlap podcast is where we discuss, study the overlaps between business, family, fitness, parenting, management, all aspects of life, and getting better in one aspect of your life helps you become better at the other. And really how you show up for the workouts, how you're going to show up for work, how you show up for work, how you're going to show up at home. There's no real compartmentalization in life is what we're saying. And thinking that there is, and thinking that, getting better in one area doesn't translate to the other areas of your life is just, probably short-sighted. Today, Keith, we have a guest.
We do have a guest.
We've been knocking it out of the park with some guests, and today we have a guest that I think has got an even more unique perspective. But we do talk about EOS, and we talk about business and how that has helped run our businesses. And as a matter of fact, we did have
we had a quarterly meeting.
Yesterday.
For the overlap yesterday.
And our guest today is it safe to say our EOS mentor?
I think he would be the EOS grandfather.
Yeah, the EOS Yoda of the Eastern Shore.
I see that.
Yeah, and also facilitated our quarterly meeting.
He did.
Yeah, and also heads up the Energy Group, which is a, not-for-profit, I can tell you, no money exchanges hands at all, group on the eastern shore of Mobile Bay. That's in Fairhope, Alabama, as well as Mobile. Two separate groups. This guy's running two different groups, small groups, all out of the kindness of his heart, trying to really teach and give others insight into EOS and how it can help their businesses, help their lives, and really help the community.
Forrest, you had no idea that you were going to start a philanthropic endeavor.
I did not have the perspective that was going to happen.
Yeah, but when we teach, we learn, right?
Yep,
That's
we
right.
do, and we got to give back.
Yeah, got to give back. So, welcome to the Overlap podcast,
I'm
Forrest
happy
Derr.
to be here. I'm in the company of great individuals. So I'm just happy to be included.
Well, it's funny you would say that because we spend a lot of time together anyway. So this is almost nothing different than a regular day.
Exactly.
So if you didn't catch his name is Forrest Derr. Forrest Derr, originally from Delaware, has lived in South Alabama since
1994.
Oh my gosh, 1994.
For those of movie buffs, it was actually when Forrest Gump came out in the theaters is when I moved down here.
That is terrible.
That was very helpful.
Terrible
Yeah.
timing.
It was great. It was great.
I bet it was, man. I bet that was.
That is terrible.
And further trivia, when I graduated from University of Mobile, my parents yelled, "Run, Forrest, run," when I got to my diploma.
They
in the
did
Mobile
not.
Civic.
Your parents
Yes.
did? That's
Yes,
kind of
in
awesome.
the Mobile Civic Center. So yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
I've had a tortured life. So.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Well, you got a lot of fans, so that's
true.
good.
That's true.
So Forrest, thanks for being on.
Yeah.
And why don't you give our listeners a little bit of just some background? You know, where you grew up, what went on, how you got to bring us all the way to where you are now.
Okay, so yes, I am a damn Yankee. I can say that out loud. That most people, when I come down here and talk to people, they're like, "You're one of them damn Yankees, right?" And I said, yeah.
Does Delaware consider themselves Yankees?
Well,
because I feel like if Maryland considers themselves part of the South.
If you look at the map, Delaware is actually below the Mason-Dixon line. So I tell everybody I'm really Southern, but then I come down here and people are like, if you live above I-10, you're not Southern. So there's that.
Yeah, so, if you live above Montgomery, you kind of are, really.
Right. Yeah. So I classify as a damn Yankee. Met a girl down here. So I tell everybody I'm Southern by marriage because I married a Southern girl from Excel, Alabama.
Oh, that's as country as a butterbean.
Rye and burnt corn and all those other great places.
I've been to Excel for a football game.
There you go.
It's wild.
Yeah. Yeah, they love some football out there.
They do.
So grew up in Delaware. Started working at a very early age. So I was a big believer in let me figure out how to pay my way, and so I started a paper route. That was my first kind of entrepreneurial venture, where in Delaware at that time, and I'm going to date myself, this was way back in the 90s, early 90s. When you had a paper route, you had your own business. So you actually went and sold door to door. You built out your route. You collected your money. You bought the papers and paid the cost of goods sold to the paper company. So that was my first kind of foray into a little bit of a business. It wasn't quite a giant empire. I think it was like 80 houses, so it wasn't huge.
That's a lot.
But hey, it was a good experience there.
Was it daily delivery?
Daily delivery.
Holy cow!
Sundays were bad. So Sundays
were heavy.
That was the coupon day. That was comic books and coupons and everything. So so that was my first kind of foray into independent business. I did that job because I could do it on my bike because I didn't have a car. Yeah. So that was, hey, let's do that. And then once I got of age, I got to be 15 years old. I got a job at a grocery store.
Did you have an exit with your paper route? Did you sell it off?
No, it did not.
I was going to ask what the multiple was.
Yeah, I should have. Come to think of it, now I don't even know what the EBITDA was on that, so I have to go back and look at that, do some math on that. But got out of the paper business and worked at a grocery store. Quickly moved up to cashier, which that's big time up in Delaware. So it was union up there at that time. So. We're talking
union in the grocery store.
So we're talking 1990, and I was making $13 an hour.
Was the union called the grocery store union?
I don't remember what the union name was, but I remember it was unionized because I had to pay union dues, and the wages were really high. So at the time,
$13 an hour in 1990.
In 1999, that was good money. That was good money. Yeah,
I don't know that I ever made that.
Yeah, so I worked there for a couple of years. Basically worked full time all through high school. And then
I definitely didn't make that at Subway.
No, probably not. Subway probably didn't have those wages. Worked there, bought my first car, and paid my own insurance.
Hold on, what was the first car?
Oh, so it was a Dodge 400 4-door sedan.
Did it have a 400
no, it's
cc
just
V8?
it was the model 400.
Oh.
So it was a 4-door sedan. So we'll squirrel a little bit.
Yeah.
Bought it from my
That's
pastor.
An EOS term, by the way. Go ahead.
Bought it from my pastor.
Oh, okay.
You don't think that turned out to be a bad deal?
I would. Yeah, immediately
got screwed on the car, and then had to buy a new car after that. So
what was wrong? Transmission,
everything. So the brakes were bad, the tires were bad, the radiator was bad.
This was what year?
It was 1990. So I bought it and. Bought it for $2,000. I spent $2,500 in repairs after that, and then I was like, "Forget it, I'm done." And so I traded it in on a 1992 Honda Civic 2-door hatchback.
Well, there you go. That'll last.
That was a fine car.
That'll last you all the way through college.
And it was a manual.
Ooh.
Yes.
I just Googled the Dodge 400. It looks like a preacher's car.
It was a preacher's car. It was a preacher's car, but it was a lot of fun. So bought the car, had to sell it, got a Honda Civic, and I was like, hey, I'm working in a grocery store, I'm doing good, I got to where I was stocking shelves, It's like, I'm going to be a grocery store manager when I grow up. That's what I'm going to do. Because those
in the union,
I'm telling you what, those grocery store managers were making some bucks.
I bet they
some
were.
serious bucks. So that was where I was going to go. And then my mom called me one day. She's like, we really want you to go to school. I know you like the grocery store, but that's not really a good long-term play for you.
You can always go back to the grocery store.
Always can. So I said, okay, well, what do you want me to do? She said, well, why don't you go to school and, what we'll do is, and this is my parents talking, we'll pay your car payment for you because I had a car payment.
Okay, fair.
We'll pay your insurance. I'm like, okay. And we'll give you $25 a week in allowance if you will just focus on studying.
Whoa.
1992, $25 a week in allowance.
Pretty good.
And I was like, okay, so fine. So I stopped and quit working, dove all into school, and I tell everybody politely that I was registered for classes for 2 years at University of Delaware.
Okay, where is the University of Delaware?
It is in downtown Newark, Delaware.
Newark.
It's all the way up in the north part of Delaware, close to Pennsylvania. So I was registered for class for 2 years, chemical engineering.
Okay.
And I started playing billiards.
Billiards. That's
And
pool, right?
Pooled, yes. So I
I
started.
don't know that Keith knew this whole story.
Yeah, I don't know that
Because he
did
was
it.
trying to gamble you yesterday.
He was trying to talk
and
about
I'm like,
that. but-
dude, don't.
Yeah. So this goes into my, I guess, the background on my obsessive compulsive nature. So
Okay.
that might help with that. So played pool night, day, 24/7, 365.
Yeah.
Hence the only registered at University of Delaware.
Roger
Didn't
that.
quite get any good grades. And worked my way up to playing in the International Collegiate Tournament at
I
in
didn't know
Tempe,
that was a thing.
Tempe, Arizona. Yeah.
How did you get out there?
University of Delaware paid for it.
What?
Yeah, so I played at University of Delaware, and then they sent me to Princeton, New Jersey to play in a regional tournament.
Beautiful
And then
place.
it is. And then they sent me to Tempe, Arizona to play in the international.
Also a beautiful place.
So my goal was I'm going to get first place in this tournament, and I'm going to go pro. Because if
Okay.
you get paid first place at that time, you would go pro.
Okay.
And I got 10th place,
Ooh.
which was crushing.
Yeah.
Absolutely crushing.
How many people were in the tournament?
There were
10.
No, I think that, I think there was 16 that went actually to Arizona, but I think there were like 16,000 in the whole tournament. It was
geez.
international. So 10th place wasn't bad, but it was not good enough to go pro. Crashed and burned, dropped out of school, started working at a gas station. So, hey, I'm going to be a gas station manager.
This is still in
It's
Newark?
it's still in Newark, yeah.
Newark. Okay.
So go to the gas station, work my way up assistant manager. I'm like, hey, I'll just be a gas station manager. Did that for about 3 months. My mom calls me and says, hey, it's time for you to go. You
Yeah.
need to leave the state.
Oh.
Get out of your element. Get rid of your bad influences. Just leave.
Had you committed a crime and needed to flee?
No.
or- Okay.
And had not committed a crime. Just I was not. I had a lot of bad influences. Let's just put it that way.
Well, yeah, you were playing pool for a
Playing
living.
pool,
That-
gambling, just doing all the things I shouldn't do.
People hanging around people like with names like Bugsy and stuff.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Sounds like, though, like mom was a driving force in your life.
Mom was a driving force,
What
and
what a visionary.
I know.
yeah,
she
she-
was.
She
was.
saw something in Forrest.
she did. She did. And she's actually from Mobile. So she was born and raised in Mobile.
Okay. So you got Southern blood.
So how did I get to University of Mobile where I ended up going to school?
Yeah.
My mom and dad met at University of Mobile.
Really?
Yes, they did. So
That is
isn't that
that
interesting?
is interesting. Holy cow.
So my mom's
That's
coffee.
a school of like 1,600 students.
It's bigger now, but
Is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, it's a pretty good student. So she called me one night. I'm at the gas station doing my thing. She said, we really want you to go away. And here's what we'll do. We will buy you a new car if you will leave and go south to school. And I'm like, buy me a new car, go to school. Okay, sure. Why not? So packed up and left, moved down to University of Mobile,
Hmm.
started school there. Here comes my obsessive compulsive back. Straight A's in school. So I did 3.5 years at University of Mobile to finish my 4-year degree. For math, for those in math, that's putting a 4-year degree in a 6-year program. So I was able to fit all 4 years in 6 years total. You got
Yeah,
that right.
that's a good thing.
It's good. So went to University of Mobile. I graduated with a business management degree. Met my wife. We actually got married the year before we graduated.
Okay.
There's a whole story behind that we could spend a lot of time on, but met her. We started dating. 2 months later, we got engaged. 9 months later, we got married. So
Whoa. Well,
Yeah.
It worked well.
It did. 26 years later, it's still working.
Doing all right.
Yeah. So while after we got married, or right before we got married, I started working at a company called OEC, and that's a office furniture and supply distribution company here in Mobile.
When we first met, I kept thinking you said OPP.
OPP.
I swear. I thought
Are you down with OPP?
I didn't know.
That would be
I didn't know if you were. So
Yeah.
I didn't bring it up.
Yeah.
But that would be a good slogan for OEC.
Are you down with OEC? Yeah,
There
know
you
me.
go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know me.
Yeah.
You
And
know
they could have
me.
made all kinds of commercials.
So that is where I met you.
Yes, it is. Interestingly enough, I met Keith at OEC. You want to tell that story?
Yeah. So I had just started my company, and I was moonlighting with a friend of mine that had an office furniture company that installed office furniture.
Okay.
And so I would go work with him, and we would pick up deliveries at OEC, and Forrest would always be the guy that we talked to.
Yep.
Huh. And wait, you would go deliver the furniture and put it together?
Yes.
So he was the company he worked for. The company he worked for was a subcontractor for
Okay.
OEC. So they actually go do the work, install work. We would sell the furniture. So
Yeah. So we would go do the install work. I was a highly sought after
Cardboard remover.
cardboard remover.
Okay.
So after they would break the boxes down, I would get them out.
Oh,
basically
there you
what
go.
that would mean.
Yeah, an extractor.
And anytime they needed someone to hold up a desk or something, I would
Unload a
hold it
truck,
up while they
Oh yeah.
put it in the wall or whatever.
That all tracks.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's where Keith and I met, was at OEC.
Okay, so before graduating, right
Yep.
after graduating, what?
So I started at OEC the summer before we graduated the next May.
Okay.
And it was to put food on the table.
Sure.
That was, and
Married man now.
well, this was I got started there in May of 1997. We got married in August of 97. So I started there, and it's interesting story. I'm business management student at University of Mobile.
Sure.
I go in for an interview. What do I dress like? I've got the black suit and the white tie, and I'm ready for interviewing.
Wait, there's a white tie?
I'm sorry, white shirt, black tie.
Okay.
Yeah. So black
gotcha.
suit.
Yeah.
I was like,
Dressing like I want to be president of the company, right?
Sure.
So I walk in there, and there's a guy named David Pierce. You remember David Pierce? He interviewed me, and it's funny because I had been referred by somebody to get the job there, and David told the person that referred me that he wasn't going to hire me because he thought I was overqualified. Well, I was trying to get a job putting furniture together. I just needed to put peanut butter and jelly on the table. So he wasn't going to hire me, but my contact, Michael Birmingham, I don't know if you remember him, he went back and said, look, he just wants to put food on the table. Just give him a job. He's not looking to be president today. And so they ended up hiring me, working my way up through the ranks, organized the warehouse, got some processes developed. They took notice of that. They said, hey, we've got a computer department. Why don't you manage the computer department? So I was like, fine, sure, I'll take that. So then I did manage the computer department. And then they said, hey, we need a website to sell office supplies. I was like, okay. So I built a website for them to build.
What was that built on?
Front page and HTML and CSS and all that stuff. I was telling Matthew earlier today, I don't remember all that stuff, but it was a long time ago.
I started using Front Page.
Yeah, Microsoft Front Page was the bomb. Yeah, so built the website for them, and then they moved me over operations management, and eventually, I was there for 18 years. Eventually, I was VP operations when I left. But in that journey, one of the things that I kind of did an offshoot of my career at OEC is I realized there were a lot of companies that needed websites that couldn't afford a full-time employee to build a website. So I started a little business called Derr Consulting.
Oh, yes.
Derr Consulting was the business, and I started that in 2000. I think it was January of 2000. Built some websites. I think I built like 15 or 20 websites over a couple of year period. And there was a defining moment that I was telling somebody about it today. There was a picture that my wife took of me where I'm sitting in our house. I'm sitting at my desk at the house. I've got two giant 19-inch CRT monitors. If you guys know what CRT,
oh, those were
19-inch. That was the bomb back then.
Yeah, it was.
19-inch CRT monitors, and I've got my son laying on my chest. And the picture that my wife took is him laying on my chest, sleeping like at 11 o'clock at night while I'm working. And I saw that picture, and that was a tipping point. And I said, I cannot keep doing this at this rate, right? And so I approached my boss, Tom at OEC and said, hey, I got to make a choice. Do I go all in and do website development and make that a business that I can feed the family on, or do I stay here at OEC? And he gave me a unique opportunity. He said, why can't you do both? And I said, what do you mean? How is that going to work? He said, why don't you let me buy your business and you run it as another division of OEC? And so he bought Derr Consulting and we turned that into OEC Technology Services. And I ran that as well as operations for about 5 years after that.
Oh, wow.
So that's how I got into OEC and built a website business and
had your first exit.
Had my first little exit. Yeah. It was
not the paper route. Missed that one.
Missed that one, but I did get an exit on the Derr Consulting. I did get paid for that, so that was good.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
So, why did you leave OEC?
Well, as I was doing different jobs at OEC, so I bounced back and forth several times between VP Operations and VP of Technology and VP Operations. Did that 2 or 3 times. And I just got to a tipping point where I felt like I would work up one area and then that would be doing great. They moved me to another area and I just was bouncing back and forth. And I just decided it was time for me to make a change. And it was not something that I'd been dwelling on for a long time. It's just like, you know what, this is something that I need to look at doing something different. And so I was having lunch with a guy named Ricky Ritchie, and we were at Red Lobster. Believe it or not.
Cheesy biscuits.
Oh,
those
cheesy biscuits. Yep,
Yeah,
Red
they're
Lobster.
good.
So we were having lunch one day, and I told him, I said, I really think I'm ready to do something different. And his response was, I didn't think you'd ever leave OEC. I thought they'd carry you out in a casket. I said, well, if I keep staying here, they will. I'm ready to do something different. And so he offered me a job to take over as director of technology and marketing at AltaWorks, which I was like, okay, sure, I'll do that.
Mm-hmm.
I've done some technology, did some website development, so hey, I can do that. And so pulled me in as director of technology and marketing, did that for a couple of years, built a couple data centers with the team. And
what is a data center?
So that's where in the AltaWorks world, we do voice over IP.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to have servers that actually route the phone traffic. So when you pick up the phone and dial the phone, that traffic actually goes through a server in a cabinet in a data center somewhere.
Gotcha.
So built out the structure and the framework for that. He eased me into finance. So I got to dive into finance. So I was director of finance for, I think, 3 years.
That's a good amount.
Learned a lot very quickly.
Okay.
I hadn't really used QuickBooks or much or anything.
What did you learn?
I learned, well, interestingly enough, I learned about the P&L and the balance sheet and all the financial statements because
how'd you learn that?
I had to do it on the job training.
Oh, OJT.
OJT. So here's the financial statements. Here's what they look like. How do we improve them? So I have a guy that his name's Darren Constantine. He's a CPA in the area. And so my first call was, hey, Darren, I'm over finance now. Can you help me out? Help a brother.
Yeah.
So he came out and helped me understand what we needed to do financially because we were a small company at the time. So we built out all the financial statements, built out all the, banking relationships, got everything going financially, how it needed to be. And then...
was this the first time that you kind of went into the finance world?
It was. So I had done a little bitty brief foray into finances. I was on a school board for a local Christian school where I was over the finances for just a short blip of time. But after I did that, I understood a little bit about finance. This was, a lot larger scale of finances. So, yeah.
We say all the time that that numbers are what, Sid?
The language of business.
Mm-hmm.
And for people that are starting businesses and entrepreneurs, that's really what they need to do is delve into their finances more.
Yes.
Because it's amazing to me, the businesses that I've talked to, and I know you've ran into this being an integrator, the businesses you walk into, then they have no clue about the finances.
Watch Shark Tank. People don't know their numbers.
Yeah, they don't know that
It's
they're making it
embarrassing.
up.
Yeah.
Right.
And then they go, well, I'm not a numbers guy.
Yeah.
I'm like,
then you're not a business guy.
It's not a business guy.
Yeah.
Go work for someone.
Yes.
Learn how to read the P&L.
Yeah.
It's a great tool.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. So,
and that was one thing that was interesting is that I'd never looked at the financials at OEC.
Okay.
VP operations, never saw a budget.
I was
never
just about to ask that. So you how did you know if you were winning or losing?
I got a paycheck each week.
Well, gotcha. That's a good point.
I mean, I got a paycheck every week.
We're here another week. Guess we're doing all right. Got it. All right.
I mean, I did a lot of project management, so I was able to do estimating of jobs. And so I knew kind of what costs were and things.
Okay.
I knew how much people were making, but never saw the true financials. So I never saw a cash flow statement, never saw a P&L, never saw, what we were averaging per month.
Didn't really understand the overhead, your burn rate, any of that. Okay.
No.
And then, man, you became a finance nerd. I would walk into your office at OEC and you had this like data center there in front of you all day long. A dashboard.
The Grow dashboard.
Yeah. Oh, man, it was so cool. Legit. I want one of those.
Yeah, that was one of the first, one of the items that was on my first job description at AltaWorks was I had to build a dashboard to be able to display what was going on with the business. And that was part of that process, what you saw, which is interesting. I mean, numbers are numbers, but when you can see them graphically, it really tells you a story and it really does tell you the story. So,
QuickBooks is getting better and better and better about that. They've got some cool graphs. And when they had QuickBooks Contractor Edition that wasn't online, it was super nice. Yeah. You sort of lost some of that when we went to online, but oh well. So you're there, VP of Operations VP of Finance 3 years, and then
our visionary read a book called Traction.
Yep.
And so there's a book called Traction out there. I'm sure you guys have talked about it a lot, but Gino Wickman wrote it. And he read the book, came in my office, and this is an actual story. He threw it down on my desk and said, "We need to figure this out. Help me figure it out." And so I read the book, which I am not a fast book reader. I'm just, put that out there.
Compared to me, you are.
I am not. It's just, it takes me a while. So I had to get into it, and it didn't take me long. And I read through it very quickly for me. And after I read it, it was like, this is so much common sense. This is the way a business is supposed to be run. Mm-hmm. I've been kicking around the corners talking about businesses and working in businesses, but this is how you run a business.
Eureka.
And it wasn't that, and Gino talks about this, it wasn't that he came up with all this stuff. He just packaged it in an easy to
he
consume
put all
format.
the different pieces
Put
together.
it all together. So I read the book and I was like, oh, wow. Yeah, that we're doing this. This is great. And so AltaWorks jumped all in on EOS at that point in time. And our visionary was on the search for an integrator. So he looked outside the company, looked inside the company. I think it took about 6 months. And one of his business partners mentioned to him, he said, you need to go look at Forrest. And he was like, well, why? And he said, because he's doing 75% of the job. Go look at the job description of an integrator.
Did they have the integrator visionary test at the time?
They did not. They did not.
EOS Worldwide?
Yeah, so they did not have the test, but the job description on the sample accountability chart with an EOS, I was doing, 75% of the job. So he approached me about it and asked me if I would take it. And I said, yeah, I'll do it. Sure. So I went to an integrator rocket fuel academy. They didn't have the test, but they had the academy that you could do. And so I did an online academy course. I think it took me 3 weeks of sessions, and they were live sessions that you did. And after I got through that, he was like, okay, we'll go ahead and make the announcement. And so he announced that I was the integrator. Now, what happened in that process is in looking at that integrator position and actually sitting in that seat, I look back and I go, I was already an integrator. I was an integrator at OEC.
At OEC, yeah.
Didn't know what it was. Didn't know what it was called, and nobody knew that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
And that was an epiphany for me to really realize that I really was, operating as the right hand and helping the visionary of the company, make decisions and build the organization and build structure and build processes and build people. But I didn't know what it was called.
So let's unpack, and that's really why we're here. Like, first question is, what is an integrator? Like, how can we explain that to our audience so they know? And I do feel like it's a tough concept for people to really fully grasp completely, because you can kind of understand it intellectually, but it's more than what the surface, what you might pick up on the surface.
Yeah.
So what is it?
So from my perspective, being an integrator is the second in command. And so in the
chief of staff,
chief of staff. So in the EOS world, you have a visionary and you have an integrator, and then you have a leadership team that reports to the integrator. And that integrator's job is really to move the ball forward from a sports analogy standpoint, and to make sure everybody has the tools, resources, and people that they need to be successful. In the visionary seat, you sit in that visionary seat, you come up with ideas, you come up with concepts, you come up with visions of where you want the company to be. And in that process, the integrator and the visionary, work through and create a VTO. So that VTO becomes the roadmap for what the integrator does.
Mm-hmm.
So as an integrator, my job is to read the map and make sure everybody's pointing in the right direction, rowing in the right direction, has all the labor that they need, has all the tools that they need, has all the vehicles that they need. And so I'm enabling the team to do what needs to be done to reach the vision.
What are some tools that people wouldn't have that you could provide them, or things that an integrator, just to give some context to those statements?
Yeah, so it could be training. So it could be making sure, one of the things that we've talked about is making sure that the managers in the company have been through the How to Be a Great Boss segment, which is an EOS solution as well. Make sure people understand how to manage. It could be making sure they have the right vehicles if they need vehicles to do their job. It could be making sure that we have lines of credit to be able to expand the business. Could be making sure we have the relationships. So I see the integrator as really making sure that everything is in place when we need something. So that may be, relationships with insurance companies. It may be relationships with banks. It may be relationships with subcontractor furniture install companies. It could be any number of things to make sure everybody has what they need. So I was talking to Matthew on our team earlier today, and we had a lunch meeting that we went to, and there's a guy in this group that we were in that does concrete and tree work. And I said, Matthew, get his card, because I would imagine we come across opportunities where we're doing a landscaping project and we need a tree removed, and it's a big tree, and that's not something we do.
Yeah,
we get him to do that. So making sure everybody has whatever they need. Give me your shopping list. Let's go through it. Let's make sure that we have what we need to be successful. And if we don't, let me go procure it for you.
One of the things, just to add some context to that, is, like you mentioned, some of it is giving them what their shopping list.
Yep.
Could be training, could be tools, could be another laptop, could be whatever. But what I have noticed with you is you're actually giving them ideas of things that they need that they don't even know they need. And they might even have, or utilizing the tools that they actually have at their disposal. They're just not used to using them.
Correct.
Some of those might be, the phone system that they have in their organization, and, or even, something
Microsoft Teams.
Well, like a messaging system within, like an intraweb, utilizing a software that keeps all your meetings together and tracking them all, and scoring it. Stuff like that, and just seeing it.
Yes.
And then encouraging them to use them, showing them why it's important and how it's helpful to them and the organization. And I do feel like that's what I'll land the plane on my thoughts on the integrator when you're finished. So anything else an integrator is?
I think, my job is as an integrator, is to hold people accountable, to make sure everybody understands what their role and responsibility is, make sure everybody has a measurable, make sure those measurables are clear, and make sure that everybody gets accomplished and moves the whatever work it is forward, so that we can reach that VTO goal. Yeah. So in the VTO, we have a 5-year plan and a 1-year plan.
VTO stands for what?
Vision Traction Organizer.
Okay. Which is essentially what?
It's basically a plan. So it's basically your business plan.
Your two-page business plan.
On a two-page business plan. Yeah, great.
And I want to say something too. Probably entrepreneurs or business owners are listening right now, and they're saying, I don't have the budget for a full-time person to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And they've listened to us enough and tried this EOS thing, and it's not going where it needs to go. Because as a visionary of a company, I can absolutely say, I don't have the skill set to pull off what you pull off in an organization. And there are people that do this fractionally, what you do full time
There
for
are.
Sexton, which you can reach out to, and we'll put some resources in this post about how you find those individuals.
Yes, there are. That is a very good point, because a lot of companies, they've got the visionary sitting in the visionary and the integrator seat. And while there are, I would say, a few people that can do both seats, they shouldn't do both. You really need to have that symbiotic relationship where the visionary and the integrator work together. They bounce ideas off each other. They keep each other in check. And that's another part of this whole visionary integrator relationship. And I've used this illustration of a visionary. A lot of visionaries see EOS as freeing them. If you can get EOS implemented with an integrator, it liberates you and frees you to do what you want to do. And as an integrator, I will say the opposite. I will say it actually puts guardrails up around the visionary.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is we're both right.
Well, I was going to say that.
We're both right.
Well, and I think visionaries shy away from EOS, and I'm kind of putting that a little mildly, but they shy away from EOS because visionaries and creatives in general don't really like to be disciplined, and they don't want guardrails. They want to be free to do their, and there is some success with some spontaneity, and I'll and usually they're the folks that are like, well, I'll figure it out when I need to. The paradox of that is that if you conform to that type of discipline, it actually frees you up to be the role that you're actually supposed to be.
Correct.
Instead of everything being chaotic.
Right.
So like you said, you're both right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just as good fences make good neighbors, guardrails make great companies.
Yeah.
So I've seen that a lot, even in my own company, because I'm exactly what Sid was describing. I'm like, let's be free. Let's do this. Let's do that. And it will lead you right into broke.
Well, and no one knows where they stand. No one really knows
Right.
what the roles are. What are the expectations? And that sounds good on the front end, but it does lead to chaos and really it's unfulfilling. And golly, this is weird coming from me, but this is kind of the same relationship with God. You know what I'm saying? It's the exact same thing. It seems like it's less fun to kind of this sounds weird and I can't find better words, but to submit to a set of rules and a way of life that's sort of laid out by something greater than yourself and then serve that seems like that's not going to be any fun. But actually, that's how I get purpose and genuine happiness out of life, is if I follow that. And then in business, it doesn't seem like it's going to be fun, but that's actually how I get things done and find joy and actually have impact with others, and you can actually lead that way. But it doesn't seem like it.
Now Forrest thinks he's a god of a business.
I do not think.
No, he thinks he's Moses.
I think I'm Moses. No, yeah.
That's a
and
great.
then he's carrying forward the 10 Commandments, which is the VTO.
That is a great.
He's going to land the plane here, and I sort of stepped all over it. I'm sorry. He was going there.
Yeah, I know, but that is a great analogy.
It's a good analogy.
I was going there. Yes,
it makes me a little uncomfortable saying those things, but that's.
So I'll say it for you. I'll say it for you. So really, when you think about it, that visionary integrator relationship is kind of like God and Moses. And so God is the visionary, Moses is the integrator, and the VTO is the 10 Commandments.
Yeah.
So it's people may look at me or say, well, that's really sacrilegious. No, it's not. It's giving an illustration.
An illustration.
But when you say that out loud and think about it, you're like, oh, that makes sense. As the integrator, I'm taking ideas from the visionary and I'm taking those ideas and making sure they're flowing through the VTO and making sure everybody's following the VTO.
Yeah.
So that when a dispute happens in a business, which is going to happen, you're going to have two managers that disagree about something. You're going to have employees that may disagree about something. Well, guess what? What does the VTO say? The VTO says we're going to do X. And therefore, if whatever decision you make's got to align with that.
Hey there. My good friend Steve Bousquet and his partner, Christine Era, the owners of Green Profit Academy, are super excited about a new product they've got coming out. If you didn't know, they're the authors of Profit First for the Lawn Care Business. And it's a book written by Christine Era. Steve plays a big role in sort of adding to that. But they've got that book. It's already out. But if you're an audiobook listener, and you just learn better by listening, they've got the audio version coming out. And I think this is really cool. They've got Christine Era narrating the audiobook, and she does a really good job. I've heard some clips of it. It's pretty fantastic. And Mike Michalowicz, the original author of Profit First, he reads the foreword. And so they've got a book launch that's going to come out on their website, Green Profit Academy, and you should stay tuned for more information about that. They're going to have some giveaways. They're going to have some other special deals going on. But the book itself, the audio book, will come out September 12th. So please be on the lookout for that. And if you need some help with Profit First for your green industry business, please give them a call or look them up, Green Profit Academy. Thanks so much.
Hey guys, this is Keith. Let me break down a scenario for you. Are you a business owner that is overwhelmed by the options of investing, but you're being told you need to invest in retirement, you need to invest in mutual funds, you need to buy some single stocks? Well, I have your fix. C2 Wealth Strategies, ran by our friend Wes Cody. Their website is c2wealth.com. If you are looking at investing at all and are confused by it, give them a call today. They will be happy to handle whatever you need. He's brought up very specific things that I need to be working on as a business owner in my investing life. Let him do that same thing for you. c2wealth.com, or go to the overlaplife.com page and click on sponsors.
That's a very kind analogy towards the visionary. As a visionary, the other side of that, which is actually the best part, in my opinion, is the difference between the God and Moses thing is that like the God of the VTO is completely fallible, and the visionary is actually there going, yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know about number 7 there.
Yeah.
That seems kind of a little weird. What do you think about this?
Yeah.
You know, and then God can go, oh yeah, that's probably way better.
Yeah.
So then the next thing is Forrest brought up, you know, managers can have a disagreement about things, and what does the VTO say? And then boom, it puts people in the right
Yep.
seats and all that stuff and gets things going. But I think more importantly, because this is what I've seen, visionaries can forget that this is the VTO.
Ooh, yeah.
Because this is, whoa, man, this is my idea and I'm being visionary. But it really causes chaos when you set one thing in motion and this is where we're going. But 6 months later, I got the new Kool-Aid going and we're going off on another track. If you got a really good integrator, they're going to say, oh, yeah, but we said we were going to do this until we got to that point. So you can't have it both ways. What are we going to do? We're going to change course now? Is that what you want to do? And someone's going to at least be there challenging. And if you've built up a good enough relationship, you're going to know that integrator is probably right. And it keeps me or any other visionary from totally screwing things up, you know?
From an organizational standpoint, that's one of the things. I was going to say this illustration earlier, but I think it kind of still makes sense. In the furniture world, I had a warehouse that we took over during Hurricane Katrina. And so we had tons of business and we had no space in the warehouse. So we took off an offsite warehouse and took it over. And I got in there and I had a blank canvas and it was just this giant space. And we started receiving trucks. And so we received trucks and all this furniture starts getting piled up. Well, it was very quickly that I realized we were going to have absolute chaos if I didn't. And this is just a giant open floor plan, no shelving, no racking, nothing. I've got to create some lanes.
Yeah.
Create some aisles, create a labeling system to say,
order.
This is B01, B02, B03, and line it up. And so I used a very simple not electrical, but the caution tape.
Yeah.
Yellow and black caution tape. And I made bays in the warehouse. And then we had organization. And so I think about that VTO as kind of having those yellow caution lines saying, these are the lanes we're going to operate in. This is what we agreed to do. Let's make sure everybody's on the same page, because otherwise we're just going to have a big old pile of crap and nobody knows what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Man, there's so many things we could go there, but yeah. So integrator, we sort of we got into that.
Yes.
That's. I think you made a good point that lots of times people get started and the visionary is acting as the integrator, because the visionary is generally the founder, the one that bootstrapped it up and got it going, knows everyone, knows really what's supposed to be done.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that's terribly wrong to do for a short period of time, so you kind of start to understand what the role is. But it is really short-sighted if you think that if one thinks that is going to be some sort of long-term play. I think if you're going to really go all in and be EOS pure, which actually is rocket fuel, to sort of rob their statement or their phrase. You're just selling yourself short. You need someone in that role, because here's what I think an integrator is. And this is what I was going to say earlier. An integrator doesn't have a sales goal. An integrator doesn't have a production goal. An integrator doesn't have there's no real metric for them except for all the metrics.
Yep.
They own all of that. And so with that freedom, without having to report a number, but helping everyone reach their number and not get distracted with their sort of day-to-day deal, you've got someone in that seat that's really driving things forward. And that's the big difference. A visionary has to, it kind of is out there getting pulled in a bunch of different directions because they got the relationships. That's how they got to where they're going, or got to where they're at. An integrator doesn't have that, and they're able to be freed up to look at things with fresh eyes and really ask the question, why are you doing it that way? And you already know the answer. It's because that's the way we've always done it. But the visionary doesn't really see those things. And the visionary's worried about next week's numbers anyways, or this month's numbers or this quarter's.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying the integrator isn't, but they got fresh eyes, and they don't have that. I think the best thing is they don't have that day to day or week to week, month to month sales target or operation or production target. And it frees them up to actually play that role, which I don't know that I can express how important it is. And it's hard for me to find the words for it, but trust me on it. It's important.
Well, I can say, as someone that sits in both seats in my organization, that I can bend my own rules.
Oh, yeah.
So sitting in both seats, I can jump over to the integrator and I can let the visionary off the hook.
Do you have meetings with yourself during that?
I do a little bit. Yeah.
Right.
And so
he talks to himself.
So it's so I am at the stage where I'm glad that I learned EOS.
Yeah.
And I think it was necessary for me to do both roles for a bit. But I am now at the point where I'm going to be looking for a true integrator to come in. We tried to do it internally and it just didn't work. So I'm probably going to go outside to do it.
Yeah, and there's lots of examples of visionary integrator relationships. We were talking about, I think I was an integrator before I knew what an integrator was. There's lots of examples of integrator visionary relationships where you've never heard of the integrator. Yeah. You have no idea who, and I can't even, I have them written down, but I cannot tell you what their names are. But here's some visionaries that had an integrator.
Yeah.
Ray Kroc.
Charlie Munger. Yeah. Charlie Wozniak.
Steve, Wozniak was an integrator. Yeah. There's tons of them. Roy Disney and Walt Disney.
Oh, yeah. Walt's brother.
Walt Disney World would not be what it is today without having an integrator.
Yeah.
Warren Buffett, and I can't even remember his integrators.
Yeah, but that's Charlie Munger.
Oh, that's Charlie Munger. That's right.
Warren Buffett had Charlie Munger.
That's right. So
and Charlie Munger would say, Warren, you're smart, but I'm right. And he said that, and they would just go with what Charlie would say.
Yeah. So it's around us everywhere, and we don't realize it.
Yeah.
So there are tons of examples throughout the world, throughout history, with that visionary integrator relationship. You look at companies that are very, very, very successful. and they have that relationship. Even if they don't say they're operating on EOS, they have that symbiotic relationship.
Yeah,
So
I can't remember the Microsoft guy, but he had one too.
Bill Ballmer,
something like
yeah,
that.
Steve Ballmer. I think it was,
Steve Ballmer,
Yeah,
that's it.
And there was Steve Jobs and Wozniak.
Yeah,
I can't remember Wozniak's first name.
Yeah, Steve.
Is he at Steve?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's Steve
Steve.
Wozniak. Yeah.
He's at High Point University sometimes. Like he's there.
Yeah.
Deal. But either way.
So it's been proven it works.
So that's the integrator. That's the thing. Here's the big and look, we kind of explained that a little bit, and I still think we're scratching the surface. I think I mentioned this before we got started. It's easy to understand intellectually. It's a totally different thing to understand it experientially. If you think you've got it, you need to go see a visionary and integrator kind of in action. If you get a chance to do that, hey, if you're around our area, holler at us, we'll show you. But it's a totally different deal, and you just don't really grasp it until you see how much work can get done. My real question, well, let's finish out the story, and then I'm gonna drop to the big question of the podcast for me is, why you, an integrator? How did you sort of embrace that role? But let's walk from OEC to AltaWorks. Book gets dropped onto your desk. You start really diving into that. Are you VP of? No, now you're the integrator. You're not VP of Finance.
I was EVP, Executive Vice President. I was integrator, and then I moved to President and Integrator. Yeah.
Okay. So, President and Integrator.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was where my last role.
So carry on from there,
Mr. President. Let's go.
Yeah. So in that journey, probably this was a year and a half ago, so 18, 19 months ago. I've been to the EOS conference every year. So there's an EOS conference. If you guys don't know about it and you're in EOS, it's in San Diego this year. You better get tickets now because the tickets go fast. I think it's like $2,200 for a ticket. So it's not cheap, but it is well worth your time. But after going to the EOS conference every year, I would come back just almost like from a revival, super excited, pumped up about EOS. And you guys went with me this last year.
Yeah.
And
it was amazing.
You see what came out of that.
It's legit.
So get back from the conference every year and I'm like, this is awesome. I'm pumped up. I'm going to focus on, getting better at rocks this quarter. I'm going to focus on the clarity break or whatever it is. And, then you get into business and you do business and it just gets back to business. And so I was trying to figure out, how do I keep that motivation and how do I get people locally involved in EOS and how do I network with those people? And so I said, well, I'm going to create an integrator support group because integrators need support from visionaries. I can tell you
AA for integrators.
It's the
AA for integrators. Yes, integrators.
You need to write the big book.
Hello, everyone. My name is Forrest, and I'm an integrator. Hey, Forrest.
That's exactly right. So integrators need a support group. I'm just going to say that out loud.
Okay.
They really do because visionaries are tough to work for.
It's tough
right?
wrangling them.
Yeah.
Can confirm.
Like herding cats.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I'm going to find integrators because I know there's people around here doing EOS. I just haven't found them yet. So I did a bunch of posts on LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter. And I'm saying, hey, man, if you are an integrator doing EOS in this area, come see me, send me a message. Crickets.
Yeah.
Nothing. I said, all right, I'm going to send a different message out. Anybody who's a visionary or an integrator, come see me. And Chris May sent me a message with LTN Insurance. So he sent me an email and we met up and had coffee at Refuge and started talking. And I said, how do we, man, I know those are the companies doing EOS. He said, well, just open it up and say anybody interested in EOS. And I was like, all right, let's do that. Did another message, anybody interested in doing EOS? And we're going to meet at Soul Caffeine Coffee Shop.
Mm-hmm.
And you showed up.
I'd actually never even saw the message.
I know.
Amber Wallace, who doesn't even work at our place anymore, said, hey, there's this, we're doing EOS, and this guy's talking about doing EOS.
Yeah.
There's this group, and I think I was trying to avoid my office or something. I was like, man, I already had it on my calendar, and I showed up.
So then you invited me.
I invited you
then
after
it went downhill.
Yeah, I did go downhill after that. But.
So we had 11 people show up that day,
it was
which
a big
was
crowd.
like, holy cow, we had to keep moving chairs.
Eureka.
And so I was like, okay, I think we've got it. So
pretty sure I showed up late.
You did show up late.
Yeah.
You had a muffin in your hand too.
I did.
So we had 11 people show up, and I'm like, all right, I think we've got something now. It's people who are interested or running on EOS. That's the secret mix. And so we started a group, and we started meeting once a month, and we called it Energy. And it's, ENRG, entertaining EOS, newly implementing EOS, regularly using EOS, or growing with EOS. Basically, those are your 4 categories. And Sid, you were fortunate enough, or I was fortunate enough for you to volunteer to be on the board.
That's not very fortunate.
And so we created a board and set you up as visionary and set me up as integrator, because I'm an integrator. I'm not a visionary.
Even though you came up with a name.
Well, I came up with a name, but that's okay. So we started this group and really started seeing people's lives change. And it's really been tremendously rewarding. So we have a group in Fairhope, Alabama. We have a group in Mobile, Alabama now.
Mm-hmm.
And, we got 10, 15 businesses each week that show up, and it is a monthly meeting, and we focus on how to run a 90-minute meeting, which is EOS for your level 10. And then what EOS toolbox each month we cover. So we covered cash flow drivers this month, which was a neat
it's fantastic
thing to do. So
that was one of the best processes I've ever sat through.
Yeah, it's a good one. So really started getting passionate about helping people and helping businesses. And then obviously the more you and I talked and worked together, I realized that we're in need of an integrator. And so you hired me, but you tell me I hired myself. I'm not sure how that worked.
Yourself.
But,
you basically said, hey, I need to come work. You need one. You need me. And I was like, okay, how does that work? Well, I'll just write it all out. And you just wrote your job description, then you wrote your freaking salary package and contract and said, sign right here. And I was like, oh, okay.
I'm getting ready to do that for that new tractor that he bought that cuts the battlefield yard.
Oh, yeah.
I want to be the driver for that.
Yeah.
Okay, you can do that. Just keep that. Well, yeah, I'll tell you what our salary ranges are.
Okay.
You got to fit there.
Oh,
I did
good.
actually send Forrest the P&L and said, well, you just got to make it work within that.
Oh,
yes.
good.
And he can read a P&L. I did know that.
Yes.
We've actually talked
Yeah.
P&L stuff. So
Yeah,
I
we
knew
did.
I knew he would know that.
He probably didn't even bend the numbers like you do.
No, I
As a
don't bend them.
visionary.
Dude, when it comes to like visionaries, I'm probably the squeakiest on all of those things. I do not mess those things up because I want the picture to be clear and not muddy.
Well, and
but now he's got me like networking and stuff. So the meals and entertainment are going to skyrocket.
Oh,
It drives me crazy.
The entertainment budget's doubling.
Yeah.
Well, you were gracious enough to let me join the team, and I'm having a blast joining it.
Yeah.
And
You look good in the shirt.
I look good in the shirt.
Yeah.
I look good in the boots too when I get the boots on.
Yeah, he does. He's got some legit boots.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, he looks like
Oh, sweet.
So really got to a point where I felt like I was ready for my next thing, my next 10X. And, you and I have talked about how I want to continue to help businesses. And this step, moving from AltaWorks to Sexton Landscaping, was an opportunity for me to get my hands into some more businesses, some more industries. So, at this point, I've worked in the grocery store industry. I've worked in the office furniture and supply industry.
for a long time, office furniture.
Yeah, I worked in
the
the telecommunications industry. I worked in the SaaS industry. Now we're in landscaping and who knows, CrossFit and all the other things we're going to get
easing into that.
Yeah,
and
so
podcasting.
So, my long-term play is I want to continue to help businesses, and this is the natural progression for me to help businesses and for us to help businesses just through this podcast and through the Energy Group.
So why embrace the role of integrator?
I have thought about being a visionary. I started a business where I did my paper route business. Doesn't really count, but the website business.
Mm-hmm.
And I really have come to the conclusion after doing the research and looking interpersonally at myself and inside myself, and my best gift is helping visionaries grow their business. Do I have ideas about the business? Sure, I do.
Lots of ideas.
But my, I guess my gift is really attaching myself to a visionary, catching their vision, and then taking that vision and helping it come to reality.
And that's what I really wanted the listener to hear, and that's explained really well, better than just saying it's okay to be number two.
Yeah.
That was much more eloquent, but essentially that's kind of what you're saying, is that, man, just kind of sat down and really thought about it, and really your best play, utilizing the gifts God gave you, this is the path that you should be on.
Yeah,
man. And I don't think that there's enough of that message in the world today,
Yeah.
and
It's another biblical message, by the way.
is it?
Mhm.
Okay.
Absolutely. God gave Moses, going back to Moses, God gave Moses the vision for the children of Israel to get out of captivity.
Uh-huh.
He gave Jethro the how. And so
That's a great name. I didn't know who Jethro is.
that was his father. So he told Moses how to organize the children of Israel to get out of being in the wilderness.
I grew up heathen. I had no idea. I never
There you
heard
go.
that story.
So it's biblical.
But that is where I think my gift is.
I
mean,
agree.
I think that my gift is, okay, tell me what you want to do with your business. Tell me where you want to go. Okay, let's document that. Let's make sure everybody understands it. Now let's go get all the tools and resources and people we need to get there, and let's go do it.
And I would say the gift of obsessive compulsive kind of nature does, since you have EOS and its format sort of as your guiding force, you do force the organization as the integrator to operate within those frameworks, which really makes it run well.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that's the freaking that's the super gift right there.
Yeah.
So if we got people listening to this podcast and they see the gifts in which we've just talked about for an hour in themselves, what does the process look like for them?
How do they become an integrator?
Yeah.
Well, I think first you need to understand EOS. So I think that absolutely the first thing you've got to do is you got to read traction and understand EOS and understand at a high level what that VI relationship is.
And VI stands for Visionary Integrator. Okay.
But the next step is, I think you need to go to the Rocket Fuel Academy and take the test. There's a test that you can take, and it will test you on whether you align more with a visionary mindset or an integrator mindset. And it's a 0 to 100 test. So it's not, so you're going to come back as, an 85 integrator and a 35, visionary, or 31 visionary. So you're going to come back, and there are some people, like I said, there are people in the beginning that can do both jobs, and they may test positively on both. But more often than not, somebody's going to test higher, a lot of times significantly higher. I think mine was like 90 something, 92 or 93 or something like that as an integrator. So take that test. That will help you determine where your role is. And then as an integrator, go find you a visionary. Go find you a visionary that you can believe in their vision and understand their vision. Part of the process for you, I asked for a couple of things before I approached you. I said, let me see your VTO. Let me understand where your vision, where you're going with your company, and then where are your financials. Let me understand where the finance company is financially. Where do you want to go? And after I understood that, I was like, okay, this is something I can get on board with. This is where I want to go. These are your core values. This is your focus. This is your 5-year plan. This is your 3-year plan. Now I know where to go. The good thing as an integrator is we're a minority.
Yeah,
you definitely are.
There are significantly less integrators than there are visionaries. There are tons of visionaries, and that's not to say that visionaries are not as important. That's not what I'm saying. But there are fewer people that live in the structure, love the structure, and they want to attach themselves to a visionary and help that vision become reality.
I would actually say that there probably are more integrator types than you think that are rolling over as the visionary that probably really should be in an integrator role.
Sure, yeah.
But I would even say it this way, and Forrest puts it nicely. He said, well, I'm not saying that visionaries aren't important. I would put it this way, and I've actually said it. I've said this quite a bit, especially in the last couple of years. I think ideas are worth almost nothing unless without action.
Yeah.
So if you're a visionary
dreams.
running around and you can't get anything done, well, that's worthless.
Yeah.
It's not good for you. It's not good for your team. It's not good for your customer. You're bringing almost no value.
Yeah.
And that sounds harsh, but ideas are just they're worthless unless you can get them implemented.
Yeah.
And so I think visionaries need integrators more than integrators need visionaries. That's my personal take.
Yeah.
But I do think, as long as I think there can be a tendency for visionaries to sort of overvalue themselves and integrators and maybe undervalue the integrator role. And I think that's the wrong thing to do because nothing's going to get done without someone get churning them wheels, making sure. And I get distracted. I get going on different things.
But that's what makes you a good visionary.
Maybe.
But
how many times have how many times have we just beat our heads against the wall, having great ideas, but getting halfway through them, implementing them and saying,
it just won't matter if I can't get it done.
Yeah.
Well,
me both.
Let me put you both on the spot. Let's talk about the meeting we had yesterday, the quarterly meeting.
Sure.
I think it was Keith that had mentioned that you guys have, I think you mentioned in the car on the way back that you guys have had several quarterly meetings.
Oh, we sit there and look at each other and come up with great ideas.
We had one quarterly meeting, right?
Yeah.
And one legit one. We had one before that.
But
so
me
we've
and
had
you
two.
but we're experts at coming up with great ideas.
Yeah.
And Keith does say I minimize the podcast's legitimacy, and I think
do.
I think that's me just going, God, I can't believe anyone's listening.
As you made
to
us
this.
look intimately in each other's eyes.
I did get you guys to have a moment together yesterday.
We did.
Yeah.
But again, my job as an integrator is to keep us on track and keep us on schedule and make sure that we're getting accomplished. So we met for 4 hours, I think, yesterday, and part of that process. Okay, all right, we've talked about that. Now we're going to the next thing. We've talked about that. Now we're going to the next thing systematically, and we get to the end of the day, and we're like, okay, here's our VTO.
This. Yeah.
We've got our 5-year plan. We've got a 3-year plan. We've got a 1-year plan. We've got our quarterly plan.
I almost want to post our recap just this, like I looked at it this morning.
Yeah.
Just the recap from our quarterly meeting yesterday and the number of items that we went through and solved was quite amazing.
Yeah, that's good. I would say this too. There really is no traction without an integrator. There just isn't. There's no traction. You're just spinning your wheels. That's what it is.
That is so good.
Oh my God! Listen
Again,
that's deep.
Oh my God!
Deep thoughts from Sid.
EOS better pick that up.
Yeah, I don't know.
Too bad we can't package it and sell it to them.
Well, anything else we need to unpack with the integrator role and in Forrest's journey? Anything you've got,
but
Keith?
you know what we did? We mentioned 10x is easier than 2x.
We briefly mentioned,
but we've got to do that book.
We're going to. It's on the list.
I know it is on the list, but we've got.
Well, but that's that we didn't talk about that in this context yet, but that book is what really triggered me to help me realize that I needed to do another 10x. And I really feel like this role is a 10x role for me.
Yeah, you're a fixer, and there's lots to fix.
Well, my 10x was, leaving University of Delaware and playing pool. That was a 10x moment for me. And another 10x moment was, leaving pool and, becoming a manager at the gas station. And then another 10x was leaving Delaware and coming down here and going to school. And then a 10x. So I've all these, I went back and looked, I'm going 10x, 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 10x. It's time for another 10x. And this is the 10x next step for me.
And we'll talk about it, but 10x is qualitative, not quantitative.
Yes.
And I think people, if you're hearing the term 10x, you might recoil from it like I do, because but it really, when you dig down into it, it's quality, not quantity. I'm not necessarily 10xing my
income
life.
or what business or sales or whatever,
or social media followers or whatever, you know. But Keith, you got any other questions?
I think we covered it. That's good stuff, and we'll have to have Forrest back to
maybe
flesh this out.
we can discuss the 10X book with
Yeah,
Forrest, because he's the one
yeah.
that really forced both of us to read it.
Right. Well,
Yeah, maybe he
actually,
didn't force
I
you.
read it before everybody. I just
You
want
read
to
it before
say
Forrest?
I did.
Oh,
He was
okay.
reading it in the airport on the way
Yep.
back. So
I
I
did.
didn't, because I was like, 10X, whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it has rocked my world.
And then you were on me, and then Forrest was
Yeah.
on me, and I was like, oh man, if you hear it twice, you should probably read it.
peer pressure.
Peer pressure was good.
Yeah.
Hey, I probably surround myself with the appropriate peers to have the appropriate amount of pressure in the right direction.
There you go.
Forrest, thank you for being on.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Thanks for being an integrator. Thanks
Forrest, do you mind if we link your LinkedIn up? And if anyone has integrated questions,
Are you kidding?
can they hit
Absolutely.
me there? I know you
He would be
love
devastated
that.
if you didn't.
We will, and so
Mr. LinkedIn himself.
So
Yeah.
if you are questioning the integrator role right now, we're going to put Forrest LinkedIn in the show notes. Reach out to him.
Send me a message.
If you're in the South Alabama area,
I work for coffee too.
he does work for coffee. Not full time, but he will. He will come meet you on our time and
That's
talk to
right.
you about that. But we got an agreement: when we teach, we learn.
That's
So,
right.
He's got the same kind of mission I do. We're really here to kind of have an impact on others and man, leave a good mark in the world. So
We're supposed to say amen there?
I don't know.
Okay.
No, it all makes me uncomfortable.
Just
Hey.
like giving him compliments does.
Yeah. Thanks for being on.
Appreciate it.
Thanks to our sponsors for helping to make this all possible. We've got a couple. We've got one new sponsor. We're going to record some stuff with them
Well,
soon.
the new sponsor's back. He's been a sponsor.
And we've got some new sponsorship availability. We've got some different, we've had some inquiries about sponsorship, and we've got some new ways to do that. We'll probably put that out on social in the next little while, but just reach out to us if you'd like to sponsor the show. We've got some pretty good stuff going on.
And I know that we've mentioned it a lot. The newsletter sign up. I promise you a newsletter is going out.
I already saw
So
the draft.
Go sign up there so that it will go to you.
We also have some merch coming.
We do.
Yeah, saw some
Merch is
samples
good.
today. All right. Again, thanks to you. Well, not again, but probably most important. Last but not least, thank you to the listener for listening. It really is kind of humbling. I'm not totally 100% comfortable with all of that, but I really do appreciate you guys listening to our podcast. We've got over 100 now. I hope we are bringing some value to you in your life and your path towards a better life. And thanks for listening, man. It really is humbling, and the feedback we get is vastly exceeds what I thought we would do whenever we first started this. So thanks. Keith, anything?
You said it all.
All right. Until next time.
Peace.
Let me tell you about one of our sponsors, Chris Drogmiller. He's with CMD Fencing. One, I really appreciate his support to the podcast. He listens to the podcast, but long before that, he has done several projects for me at my home, at our business, and the dude just does an awesome job. One of the things I really like about him is it's basically just him and someone that helps him. His attention to detail is phenomenal. The work is always high quality. If you've ever had a fence built, you know that the gate itself and how it opens and shuts is kind of the stamp of quality. It always works well. I've made him make some interesting kind of fencing where it's all horizontal. He had no problems with that, did a great job. And the guy is freaking awesome. He's easy to work with, and he does a fantastic job. He's a firefighter, so he works 2 days on and 2 days off. So he comes in and knocks my project out on the days that he's off. And the dude's awesome. You can find him on our website, overlaplife.com. You can find him on Facebook, CMD Fencing. And let's see, his phone number is 901-484-5546. So if you need a fence, need some fence work, call Chris Drogmiller, CMD Fencing. Okay, guys, everyone knows if you're a business owner, a business leader, or you're just a person in the world needing help with accounting, you need a real partner. You need someone that's going to listen to you and not just plug numbers in to make their job easy to do your taxes. At least that's what I want. I've been through a lot of accountants in my life, and I have yet to find one even remotely as good as Johnny Baranco. He's the owner of Baranco and Associates, and he's the kind of guy that really doesn't manipulate your books to make his job easier. He really is trying to give you insights into your business or into your financial planning world. Whatever your goals are, he's there to help. And so I just encourage you to give him a call. Baranco and Associates, look him up online. It's barancoandassociates.com and just see if he can help you. He really is the accountant that I recommend to everyone, even before he was a sponsor of the podcast. So please, if you need an accountant, just do yourself a favor and give him a call.